My name is Valerie Heffernan. I'm a senior lecturer in German studies at Maynooth University in Ireland. I am here in Biel participating in the Robert Walser-Sculpture. It may seem unusual for an Irish academic to be interested in Robert Walser, so I'd like to explain first of all how I came to Robert Walser. I was lucky enough as a master's student to participate in a seminar given by Professor Anna Fuchs at University College Dublin on Robert Walser's work. And as a master's student, I was really quite fascinated by this writer who really didn't seem to be interested in attracting and keeping the interest of his readers. It was quite frustrating to read him at times and quite fascinating at the same time. So I became very interested in his writing and decided to write my master's thesis on Walser's work. I was particularly interested in his portrayal of women in his work and also in his writing style, which seemed to me to be to fall into what I was understanding to be feminist writing at this time. Not feminist in the sense of his portrayal of women, but feminist in the presentation of a very different way of writing, one that went against our expectations as readers. And it was this that I sought to explore in my master's thesis. When it came to writing a PhD, I decided to continue my work on Robert Walser. I am very interested, particularly interested in his dramatic scenes. Walser is of course known as a writer of prose and of novels, and there hasn't been so much work done on his dramatic scenes, and I was drawn to them particularly because of a few things that Walser wrote about them. So Walser produced short dramas in the early 1900s, between 1900 and 1902. Then there was a long period where he didn't write very many new dramas, and then he began in the early 1920s to write short dramas again. The dramatic scenes, even the very early ones, are quite unusual, mostly because it's difficult for us to imagine how they might be staged. And this was something that fascinated me, particularly when I came across a quotation from Walser. He's talking about his earlier dramas, but actually what he's saying is relevant for the later dramas also. He says, "They are entirely poetry and really only for adults who appreciate artistic things. They are constructed on style and beauty, and the enjoyment of the book is the main thing. Whether they could ever be put on, for instance, with music, is totally questionable and seems for the present utterly beside the point." And this idea that a drama, that it is utterly beside the point whether or not a drama could be staged, I think is really quite fascinating. And I was interested in pursuing this idea of his dramas as primarily written texts, this idea that the enjoyment of the book is the main thing, as he says. And so I look at the dramas as written texts, and I look at the relationship that the dramas set up between reader and writer. I look at the ways in which the dramas use our expectations of the dramatic form, our expectations as readers of the dramatic form, and at the same time thwart those expectations and play with them and make us question our own expectations as readers.